Oh, this one is something I'm interested in. The current job culture is fucking ass right now, and especially in America. I'm not too sure what it's like in the rest of the world because I'm American and I don't really have to know what's going on in the rest of the world. It's just kind of our like birthright. But yeah, this one is called Gen Z Isn't Lazy. We're just rejecting BS jobs, which holy shit, that's so real. By Philosophical Gamer. I'm interested in a lot of like because a lot of Gen Z is pretty old now. There are a lot of them like they're what, they're early 20s now, something like that. Enough to have jobs, enough to pay taxes, enough to go to war. And all they like there's so much just meaningless garbage shit jobs. There was that when I was working like 10, 15 years ago. I mean, probably not 15 years ago. I've been too young for that, but so I started working the moment I turned 18. Like the moment I was allowed to have a job, I started working. And back then, there were worthless jobs. Now there are more worthless jobs. There's probably the thing with now is that like I think every generation is noticing that more jobs like as time goes on are just awful, and it's stopped like no longer being this thing of like, hey, I need work, I need money, I'm gonna do this. To this fucking sucks. This sucks ass. I don't want to do this. People are terrible. You're not paying me shit. And the only thing I'm doing is making a big rich man richer while I'm down here on the bottom doing 12 hours of manual labor, getting nowhere in life, right? And I think a lot of people are way more like realizing that now. Where before, like my grandfather would have been like, just take the job, just work and suck it up and deal with it. But people are more choosy now, which I don't know. I have no idea if that's a good thing. We'll see. Ready? What's that?
Gen Z doesn't want to work anymore. And between these dogshit wages and this totally broken economy, we should all completely support them on this. But society will collapse.
Look at that little man.
Works. This is a common rebuttal from delusional boomers and corporate shills I'm sure you've all heard by now. This actually isn't entirely true. There's a major caveat to the statement, but we'll get into that a bit later.
I'm listening,
but the main
sir.
problem with the statement is that this applies to many other things as well, not just work. For example, society will also collapse eventually if nobody has kids. Now, I know historically speaking, people and especially women were shamed for not having kids, but we've made a lot of progress on that front. And today, generally speaking, we don't judge, shame, or criticize someone for choosing not to have kids. Don't worry, I'm not one of those weird tradcons trying to force everyone into having kids again. Quite the opposite. I'm a childless 35-year-old millennial myself.
Oh.
I may or may not choose to have kids in the future. I really don't know and don't care right now, to be.
I think right now it's too hard for a lot of people to think about having children right now. I cannot imagine what you would probably have to go through to not only support like your family, like your like lover or whatever, or your wife or your husband or something, and then a child on top of that, and then raise them on what might be like one of the worst political ecosystems we've had in America, like divisive wise for like fucking ever. And we're not like going to civil war like we were doing in like, you know, the 1700s, but it's not great right now. It's so us versus them. Nobody can afford things. It sucks. And then I think a lot of people see the kind of tech hellscape we're moving towards, and it's like I don't know. I don't feel like, I don't know, having a kid more in that kind of world is like easy at the moment. I don't know if I'm gonna look at it from like a, oh yeah, it's against the system kind of thing. Fuck you, and you're telling me I gotta have kids and whatnot. I think it's more of like an economical decision more than a lot of other factors.
Be honest. I'm just pointing out a major logical inconsistency here. The argument that, but society will collapse if nobody works, is always used to hardcore blame, shame, and humiliate people who choose to be unemployed. But the exact same argument can be applied to people who choose not to have kids. Society will also eventually collapse if everyone stops having kids. This is just a fact, and it's already happening right now in many countries right in front of our eyes as we speak. So why is it that we generally respect someone's personal choice to not have kids, but we hardcore shame them for their personal choice to not work?
I think a lot of like, when it comes to somebody's personal choice to not work, if you're not bringing in money in any way whatsoever, the reality is things around you cost money. Eating costs money, living costs money, having a home costs money, running the home costs money, travel costs money. And if you're not working, who's picking up that bill? Who in society is picking up the bill for you? Are you getting some kind of check in the mail every month? Right? Kichan, what, you want me to meow for you right now? I don't have my socials on. God damn it. I'm so dumb. All right, Kichan, I will meow for you one time during this video, okay? Meow. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Back to what I was saying. But yeah, somebody's got to pick up that bill. And who's picking it up? Are you making your parents do it? Are you making your neighbors do it? Are you making your friends do it? Like, where are you getting money from if you don't work? And I'm not even talking about like, the fuck you mean cringe? Fuck you. Kichan, I love your little head. You are the mascot of my server. Those who don't know, Kichan is really cool, and she's really small and really pretty, and she does a lot of cool stuff, and she's the mascot of my server. She's also our piss monster, or pee monster. Whatever. Anyways. Yeah, so who's picking that up? It's like, maybe you do some things from time to time. Maybe you take commissions, right? But that's still working. Are you saying you're giving that up too? And I'm not against like the idea of like, okay, things are hard, things are tough, but again, when you don't do something, somebody has to pick up the slack. And if somebody's picking up the slack for you entirely, I don't think that's fair. Like, what are you doing to provide? Maybe you'll get into that point. I don't know. But it's like, I also don't know about the comparison of like, if nobody has kids, because I feel like that's a massive leap. And like, well, if somebody doesn't do this, then they don't do this, it's going to have the same outcome, right? But it's like, I think they're two entirely different subjects that you can talk about, that things are different for almost two entirely different reasons, where I think, again, like I said, having kids right now is a more of a like an economic choice for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people who also enjoy their freedom. I understand that, right? Because like kids kind of weigh you down. You have a little ball of responsibility you have to take care of. And that's fine. That's I think that's absolutely fine if that's how you want to live your life. I don't give a fuck whether or not you want to have kids or not. I hate to say it. In fact, people who don't have kids are usually more like enjoyable to be around, because all you're gonna do is talk about your kids and how much things suck or how tired you are. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where this goes. Oh, boy, that would have been bad. I had my mouse over the stop streaming button and I almost clicked.
Wait, stop. I know what you're thinking. It's because if you don't work, then you're a burden to others who do work. But wait, once again, this exact same argument can also be applied to those who choose not to have kids. Somebody who puts in the immense time, money, and energy investment into raising kids is raising a future worker for society. And when this kid grows up, he will eventually have to pay for the social security check of someone who didn't have kids. So it's funny to me how we relentlessly complain about paying a few extra tax dollars to support struggling families on welfare. Why should I have to pay for somebody else's kids, right? And yeah, I highly doubt.
I say not all of those people are struggling. Like, there are people who know how to game the system. I'm not saying that's all of them, but like, boy, there are people who know how to game the system. I have known some people in my life that, wow, you got a disability and you're driving a big, cool, awesome truck that's 4 times the price of any vehicle I'll ever own. Oh, you have the nicest house. Oh, you just have a bunch of children that you like have in your care that you're just getting checks from the month every month. That's cool. But no, that's not everybody. But I think one thing is like, we don't have a choice, and when it comes to paying taxes, it's like when it comes time to pay taxes, we don't like get to tell the government, "I'll fuck off," or I'll go to jail. But we do have a choice to pay for those around us willingly, and the people around us who are willfully not doing shit, that are leeching off of us. That it's like, well, I could just tell you, no, go get a job. But if you're a loved one, it's really hard to tell that person, or like, I'm gonna let you starve today. Especially like with parents and their kids. Like, I understand there's also a lot of like younger people who live with their parents now and that are just kind of mooching off of them. I mean, I do to an extent the same thing, because I'm not gonna say I'm perfect in this. I'm fucking busted to hell. I need assistance with living. I cannot live alone, because if something's like, if I were to just fall, I think my back would be so destroyed that I would not be able to move. I think that's where I'm at right now with how like messed up my body is. And of course, there's like a lot of work opportunities I'm missing, but there's still little things I do, little things I help out with. There's still some income I try to bring into the house to take care of all my own shit, and with the assistance of somebody like helps me live, right? But that's a willful choice where paying taxes is not. You can argue, yes, if you want to be devil's advocate, can be like, oh, just don't pay your taxes, just go to jail, right? But that's not like, I don't think that's necessarily living in the reality of things, where the average worker is going to work, they're paying their shit, giving the government man his government bucks, and all the other shit going along with it. But you're laying on my couch, you're just not doing it. You're soaking up my air, you're taking up my heaters, my air conditioning, you're eating from my fridge, and you've not participated in it in any way. I think that's more of like where I'm coming from with this like kind of people.
We'll be complaining about welfare when these kids grow up and have to pay our social security. So who's really the burden on who here? Now, once again, I want to reiterate that
I think that's just how society works, though.
I'm not even sure if I want them myself. I'm just asking a simple question here. If everyone chooses to stop having kids, society will collapse. Just like if everyone chooses to stop working, society will collapse. So why do we respect their decision to not have kids, but we relentlessly hardcore shame them for their decision to not work?
I don't know where this like thing is coming from, or like if everyone. I don't think like people in the real world think about the mindset of like, well, what if everyone did this? That's not realistic. That's not a goal to reach for with any sort of like argument. Be like, oh yeah, what if everybody did this? They would have societal collapse. Like, nobody fucking thinks like that. What? Not a single person, like real person out there thinks like that. I've been in this shit before. I've been to job. I've met tons of people. I've gone everywhere from different kinds of churches, different kinds of religions, different kinds of things. And the amount of people I've met that I would be like, have real conversation with would never say, yeah, but what if everybody did this? That's not fucking real. That's not a real mindset. I don't know who would be on like both sides of this argument, but that's both kind of fucking stupid in my opinion.
Well, I did some digging, and as it turns out, it's just another psyop, another psychological manipulation.
Oh yeah, let's get into this.
Delusional boomers and corporate shills used to blame, shame, and gaslight you into accepting these dog shit low wages and slavery-esque working conditions that they want to force you into.
I could say to an extent, like, yeah, that's probably true. Like, so like a lot of our lives, right? It's run by money that we never see. It's run by people at the top who we're never ever going to meet in our lives. We're never ever going to have anything to even close to the power that they hold. And everything around us is so curated for manipulation in some way, right? I can believe, yeah, to an extent, there's probably some psyop out there of like shaming people. I feel like the whole quiet quitting thing was a fucking psyop. Young teenager who's not ready to be a mother get pregnant instead. That's how Thailand works. The fuck, Onii-chan. Yeah, like we invented a term for people who are literally just fulfilling their contract in the workplace. I 100% believe that is a psyop from the higher ups to try and be like, we need to put some kind of negative connotation behind it to make sure like when somebody is doing this, we can like gather people around. Because one, I hate to say this, boomers can be fucking stupid. Not all of them, of course, right? But there are some who are like, I worked hard. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps and all that shit. That's like, great job. All you did was tell corpos that you can work harder for less. Thank you, man. Thank you. Because it's like, I've been in those hard ass factories where I've had to bust my ass in 100-degree heat, moving lots of stuff, pouring molten metal, making molds, working with things like tractors and shit. I've done things with like cranes and whatnot. And the only thing people did before me is like, yeah, boss man, we're gonna go in and we're gonna work harder. I'm gonna show them I can give 110%. And did you get paid 110%? Most likely not. I'm sorry, that's my rant. Onii-chan, what are you talking about condoms in my chat? What the fuck are you on about?
Hey guys, just wanted to say real quick, thank you all so much for 20,000 subscribers now. Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
I seriously am so grateful. I have no words. Like, we're just growing so fast right now. It feels like just yesterday we hit 10K. So yeah, just wanted to say thanks. And if you're new here and enjoying this content, definitely consider.
Even if I can disagree with somebody, doesn't mean I'm not like proud of them for trying their hardest.
Corporate lies.
Yeah, fuck corpos. Fuck them.
Jobs. So, do you remember in the beginning of the video when I told you that the phrase society will collapse if nobody works is not entirely true? It's only true if you add a major caveat to it. Society will collapse if nobody does essential work is the actual true statement here. You all remember not that long ago when the whole world shut down and only those labeled essential workers were allowed to
GameStop.
keep working. This just totally proved that the overwhelming majority of jobs are not essential. The late great anthropologist David Graeber made a great case for this in his now famous book, Bullshit Jobs. Graeber makes the case that around 50% of jobs serve no real meaning or purpose.
I can believe that.
Several very compelling examples. Perhaps the most iconic one from his book is the doorman at luxury hotels, who spends most of his day dressed in a fancy costume and putting a fake professional look on his face. His only job, so to speak, is to open the door for the rich guests of the luxury hotel. And let's face it, society is not going to collapse if he decides.
Okay, that's just rich people putting on their airs bullshit, right? There's like the whole thing about you're paying for an experience. And he's absolutely right about like, well, if that job went away, who gives a fuck? You're gonna have to open the door yourself, boo boo hoo, right? But that's just them putting on this like show of, yes, welcome to this rich people establishment for rich people. Come on in with our little servant man who treats you, like you're a king. Your little bellhop here, he's gonna carry all your shit upstairs for you. All those jobs, he's right. Yeah, they could be replaced, or they can be done yourself manually. But that's all for show. There's a lot of jobs that are just for show. It's like the Walmart greeters or like even to an extent like a bunch of cashiers. Because like how much stuff now is like, oh yeah, I just ring out myself. There's a bunch of bullshit jobs that are only there entirely for show. And I think they're there instated because of older people still in charge believe that it's part of a presentation that you need to have as a company to just like, oh yes, see how we function. We have all these people for these little things. Yeah, I can agree with that.
To stop working and rich people have to open their own doors. In fact, not only do these bullshit jobs not contribute to society, a lot of them actually actively harm society.
Well, I mean, I guess if you want to take it in any certain way, right? Because like even if they themselves don't necessarily contribute to society via that job, the money they make does. The taxpayer money they pay does. Because that person's going to take that money and they're going to pump it back into the economy, right? They're going to keep it into their, like, especially if you have like a local economy, a little one, you're going to keep it circulating. You're going to keep yourself going. I think like if you want to look at it like that, of course, like no one's going to say I have like the person making me a cheeseburger is the most important person in society. But again, his wages are also going to like things that I would also pay myself. It's just how society is run currently. Little people make something, little people give back.
The best example of this is a corporate lawyer. Everyone agrees monopolies are bad, right? Whether you're a capitalist or a communist, we can all pretty much universally agree that monopolies are bad. Well, a lot of monopolistic companies staff armies of corporate lawyers whose sole purpose is to find and exploit legal loopholes to protect their monopoly. They contribute absolutely no benefit to society. In fact, they actively harm society because by helping maintain monopolies, they stifle healthy competition and innovation. Call me lazy for being unemployed all you want. Even if I contribute nothing to society, at least I'm not actively harming it the way corporate lawyers are. But this does lead to an interesting question.
Fuck the corporate lawyers. It's funny.
You see, these delusional boomers and corporate chills constantly shame Gen Z for not wanting to work with the whole, but society will collapse if nobody works argument. Yeah, have you noticed?
Who said that? Like, I've never heard anyone say that. Who is saying this? Is this just some shit you see on Twitter? Because this only seems like some shit you see on Twitter or Facebook. Like, oh, the damn kids aren't working, everything's gonna collapse. Like, I've never heard a real human being in a real life say this. Who is saying this? I'm super curious. And are they saying it with a blue check mark next to the name in order to rile you up and get those funny bucks? Because like, if they did, then it worked. Boy, did they do their bait.
That the essential workers, the ones who actually keep society from collapsing, they're the ones who get looked down on, spit on, and paid absolute dogshit wages from these same delusional boomers and corporate shills.
I don't know. Like
the essential workers.
Construction pays pretty well. Welding pays pretty well.
There are absolutely good, hardworking people who keep our society running. Farmers who grow the food that feed all of us. Construction workers who build the houses and the infrastructure we all live in. Even grocery store workers, as I'm sure we'd all rather just buy a meal at the store than hunt for it in the wild. Now, if the logic for why we should all be forced to work is, but somebody has to work or society will collapse, I would totally be cool with this argument if the people who did the most essential jobs that keep society running were paid the most, looked up to for being successful, and treated well by society. If they do the most important jobs, it only
Who's not treating construction workers well? Or who's not treating doctors well? Or who's not treating like masonaries well? Who's not treating electricians well? I can understand where he's coming from with this. But again, this, I hate to say it, feels like an argument of he saw some shit on Twitter and then he's just getting mad at it in his head. Maybe I'm just a little backwards man, ugly bastard man, but I have never seen anyone shit on those people. There was a period of time where I would say where it's like, God, do you remember the learn the code era, the learn to code era, like on Twitter, where people were like, oh yeah, we're losing our job, they're needing like media, whatever, labor jobs or whatever. And people were like, oh, you better learn to code, boomer, because you need it for future. But a lot of people, real people in the real world, understand that jobs that are specialized like that, they will last forever. People are always gonna have to be pooping. And that poop's got to go somewhere, right? And there's always going to be a guy around to fix when the poop don't go where it's supposed to go. People will pay good money to make sure that poop needs to go where where it's supposed to. Same thing for building houses, or same thing for being a doctor, same thing for like jobs in society that, yeah, I could say do create something or provide some form of real quote unquote value. No, I don't think anybody's really looked down upon. I think what you can look down upon, or like what I've remember, or I've seen people look down upon, is how a lot of people who are like to present themselves. Like, if you see a plumber and he's not wearing like a Led Zeppelin shirt and the shittiest jeans you've ever seen in your life and the boots, and he's got some stains on it, that's not like, that man's not real. It's the one who's got the ass crack hanging out and he's gonna say some bullshit about, yeah, the pipe's doing this and this, and it's leaking here, and I'm gonna have to go to Lowe's and get this thing, fix it. And he's just like, sits in his truck for 10 seconds, drinking his Coke, listening to Pour Some Sugar on Me, and then he drives away. That's the man I want fixing my pipes. That dude knows what he's talking about. I believe him. Maybe that's just me. I've been around working people my whole life. Like, from my grandfather, who was like, who could do master mechanic work. He could build houses. I've built houses with him. We've done electrician work. And I've known so many people because he's had so many connections about like everyone. And not one of those people I've ever heard like, oh yeah, I'm getting shit on for being a construction worker. In fact, like, what was that whole era of like, wow, construction worker, a man who can actually build something, and like you'd see like the generic like lady on television like, oh, it's awesome, he's hot, like he's built. We know he makes good money because like I've seen a bunch of these like paying jobs for construction that like make good money. I've worked for construction a little bit. I didn't like do any like the real hard stuff. I just had to move a lot of like materials around, but it paid well.
Makes sense that they get treated the best, right? Yeah, how does society actually treat these very essential workers? It depends on for its survival. You don't deserve a living wage. You're a low-skilled worker. Huh, he works at a grocery store? What a loser. You mean to tell me you should get $20 an hour for working at Walmart? Huh. This is probably
Who's saying that?
Disgusting behavior I've noticed when it comes to delusional boomers and corporate shills. These people spend their whole lives treating essential workers like crap and then subsequently performing mental gymnastics to justify it. They pay them like dog shit.
I could agree with that to an
Treat them
extent.
like dog shit, look down on them, spit at them,
Management never
humiliate them,
respects their
and we all
employees.
know and have experienced this. And yet, when it comes time to defend their pathetic, broken system, they suddenly and magically become an essential worker's best friend overnight. Hey, some
corporals are.
work or society will collapse. This argument is basically using essential workers as a meat shield to protect their joke of a system that only benefits them.
Yeah, that's how corporations work. The corporate is just a wild beast, right? And it's just going to fight for its survival. It's going to do what it needs to get by. It's going to be your best friend one second, and then it's going to be your enemy the next. That's why it's like a lot of people who are in charge, you can't really trust them. You got to figure out like, okay, where's this money going? Where's it going, like coming from? There's a lot of manipulation happening. I can agree with that. I also agree, like, boy, the people who are not like a foreman, because I've trusted a lot of foremans. I've known a lot of foremen who they weren't afraid to get in the shit. But I've known people who were their boss, who are just like the corporate man in his little suit. I've worked at a place to where the the guy in charge of the factory was afraid to come out onto the floor because he said it was like walking into a zoo. That's the kind of people I think of. Like, they don't respect what we're doing. The kind of people who would like, who've never really lifted anything heavy in their life, who have always been more on the educated side of things or more on the management or leadership side. A lot of them I have met that are like fucking assholes about it.
Then after that, they can go right back to exploiting them for dogshit wages while they sit around doing nothing all day. I can't count how many times I've seen a corporate shill in the comments going, but if you don't work, you're a burden to the farmer who has to work to feed you. Funny thing is, I've never seen a comment like this from an actual farmer himself, only from people exploiting the farmer for their own profits. But here's the truth. Unless you're a farmer yourself, you're going to be a burden to farmers. Here's an interesting historical fact.
Aren't most farmers like business owners? Like, they own their own thing and they just sell out to the companies that buy?
Anywhere between 100 to 150 days of holiday per year. They work less than half the amount a modern farmer has to work. How can this be? You're probably wondering. We have so much better technology and machines today that theoretically should make a modern farmer's job much easier. Well, the answer is because in medieval times, almost everyone did some level of agrarian farm work, while today, less than 2% of the population are farmers, which means they have to work way harder to feed the rest of us. And on top of that, they don't even get paid that well to do so, because like the rest of us, they're being forced to be exploited for capitalist profits. So, if you're so
farmers are some of the richest people I've met personally in my life. What? Am I mistaken in like feeling that way? It's like, I live around all farmland. There's a farm across the street from my house. I go outside and I walk for 30 seconds, 20 seconds. I'm in a cornfield. Behind me, there are farms. The entirety of the roadway driving toward town is farmland after farmland. All those people, they got the nicest trucks. They got big ass houses. They got cool motorcycles and shit. They're the ones I've always known that for some reason has a television larger than any man could ever need in their life. Like, I have never known a poor farmer. I've never known a poorly paid farmer. For something that is in high demand like that, something that's also like crazy labor, because like crazy amount of labor as well. What? Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe there are farmers who are paid poorly. But to my knowledge, most farmers own their farms. That's at least what I've known. Like, and a lot of them just essentially sell to whoever's buying the local products. They sell in bulk. If anybody out there is a farmer and you can like correct me in my comments, I'd actually be greatly appreciated. I'm interested in knowing your side of things, because I'd like to hear your experience of if you think you're paid fairly for your work, or how that goes in the back.
Concern about not being a burden to farmers or essential workers is not the unemployed who are the biggest burden to them here. In fact, a rich person working a bullshit job is probably going to be a much bigger burden, given that his consumption needs are going to be much, much higher, and his job either contributes nothing or even actively harms society. If you're so concerned about society collapsing, if nobody wants to
consumption
work,
needs, what
you better be
what would that be?
Corporate lawyers, middle managers, CEOs, and all these other useless bullshit jobs to work on a farm or in a grocery store for dogshit wages too. Because if everyone learned to have some level of self-sufficiency again, that's what would truly reduce the
is he talking about working on a farm, being like a farmhand?
I didn't think so.
Because those people I've known get like paid really pretty well too. They get paid a good living wage.
That has nothing to do with their concern for the very essential workers they constantly spit on. It's so that they can shame, blame, and manipulate you into taking low-paying essential jobs yourself as well, so that they can continue to exploit you while doing absolutely nothing themselves. Part 3. The cognitive dissonance of work. AI has already replaced 14% of jobs, and this number is only going to get exponentially worse. But you don't even need to believe the AI hype. Long before AI took over, automation and outsourcing already replaced a significant amount of jobs.
That's been around forever.
This is why it was already so hard to find a job, even long before AI existed. To me, the biggest argument for why Gen Z is right for not wanting to work isn't that work sucks, or is meaningless, or doesn't pay enough. Though those are all absolutely true as well. The biggest reason for me is that even if everyone actually wanted to work, there simply aren't enough jobs available for everyone now. Cognitive dissonance is a term you're probably all familiar with by now. It is a psychological phenomenon where a person has two beliefs that
At least in Finland, farmers don't make enough money that it's profitable to keep doing farm stuff. Best friend's family had milk cows. They had to stop because they couldn't afford doing it anymore in this economy. Okay, so that's interesting to hear about. Like I said, the only farmers I've ever known in my life are fucking rich. I said, I don't know if he was talking about working on a farm as like a farmhand or something, but I know a lot of people who do know how to operate a lot of the heavy vehicles and whatnot, or how to take care of the actual plants or the land or the animals. They were making a decent living wage. Yeah, I don't know how that's like for a lot of people. I'm curious to know. I'll actually have to look into that because I feel I'm ignorant on the subject as I am now. The AI thing. I think when it comes to AI, this is something that's been around forever. It's money, the need for money in corporations is always had the need for advancement in technology. It's how do we do things faster? How do we do things cheaper? How do we do things paying less people to do it? And that's been around forever. Like people who had to make paper by hand, then they had a machine to make paper for them, and now we have mass productions like going on for like a ton of stuff. And the industry is going to keep changing. It's going to do it forever. It's just how it is. It's just like I said, it's a beast that will do what needs to survive in the best way possible. And he's right. There's not going to be jobs for everyone, but it's also always been like that. Not everybody in history has had a job. We're at a point now where society kind of needs a lot of this stuff to live. Yes, you can be self-sufficient, but it's way harder than ever since everybody owns every bit of land around you. And it's a sink or swim kind of life at the moment. I think if you truly are worried about AI and you have the freedom or you have the ability to learn and educate yourself on it, like maybe learn how to get yourself into the workforce. Because I think when it comes to a lot of tech, there's going to be always someone need to be in the background, right? Someone's going to have to make the stuff run. Like I guess you could say like make the sausage. Someone's going to need to know how to fix those servers. Someone's going to always need to know how to make the actual like physical stuff work, because the AI is not like existent in itself. Of course, maybe we'll have a robot one day, but as it is right now in your life, maybe you should look into educating yourself to become part of the industry. I'm not saying I like AI being like, oh, it's going to take us over, we're going to have freaking Skynet shit. But if it's something you're worried about, maybe consider it. We had a thing here earlier this year where you couldn't find beef anywhere and stored because... Is this going back to like when my mom asked you if they have beef in Finland? You get stores making massive profits while the farms got paid just change for their products. Okay, that's interesting. Like I said, I'd like to look more into that because maybe I am ignorant on the subject. Maybe the gentleman presenting here knows more than I do. So I'm not going to go and say I know everything. If I'm wrong about something, someone let me know, and I'll be like, okay, I'd like to research it.
Directly contradict each other, which causes immense mental discomfort. As a result, they're forced to resort to painstaking mental gymnastics coping mechanisms to try and reverse engineer an alternate version of reality where both these conflicting beliefs can coexist. And I believe delusional boomers, corporate shills, and modern society at large is experiencing a massive collective cognitive dissonance when it comes to our views around work. So, the two conflicting
I can agree with that to an extent.
Are, number one, everyone should have a job, and number two, you're not entitled to a job. You've all heard them say this a million times. But these two beliefs are directly and fundamentally mutually exclusive. And I know people like to throw out the whole, those two arguments aren't mutually exclusive when they want to sound smart and win an argument, but there's just no angle for them to use this rebuttal with these two beliefs. They are literally as mutually exclusive as it gets. Since society is so hell-bent on hardcore blaming, shaming, and humiliating everyone who doesn't have a job, then it has a responsibility to ensure everyone can have a job in the first place. But clearly, it can't do that. People are literally applying to hundreds, even thousands of jobs with no response right now.
Yeah, that's a big problem right now.
So bad to the point of shaming the living shit out of you for not having one. And yet, they can't even create an economy where you even can get a job in the first place. And thus, this is where the cognitive...
Okay, who are these people in this hypothetical here, right? Well, he'll say they'll go hard into shaming you for not having a job, but it's also their job to make sure that you're able to have a job. Who are the hypotheticals here? Because it's like, again, these are arguments I don't think I've ever heard outside of Twitter. Like, I don't think I've ever heard these as real things. Maybe your parents, like, maybe this is like some bullshit your dad would say to you, like, kid, you need a job. Everybody needs to have a job. And then I also agree with, like, I don't think everybody needs to have a job. I honestly don't. If you don't have a job and there's gonna be consequences in some way, yeah, I don't give a fuck. This is just how I am. So long as, like, not affecting me, I don't care. But then there's also, you're not entitled to a job. I don't think people are really entitled to much of anything in life. Like, yeah, so I think we could have our basics and whatnot, and we should want to strive to maybe help make sure people are taken care of, or our loved ones are taken care of. But I don't think anybody is inherently entitled to it. Yeah, that's just me.
Cognitive dissonance begins, and it gets really hilarious. If everyone should have a job, but not everyone can get one, then you have to resort to all kinds of hilarious cognitive dissonance mental gymnastics to justify your worldview. Well, those who don't have a job must just be lazy then, right? Okay, so everyone who doesn't have a job
I would
is
disagree
lazy,
with that.
right? So what happened during the 2008 financial crash?
I think
This was
there are a lot of people who
event
want a job,
that
they
led
just
to the
can't get one.
situation we're in
'Cause
today
it
that
sucks
we
right now
never
trying to
really
get a job.
recovered from. At the peak of the crisis, the economy was losing over 700,000 jobs per month. So if everyone
you,
who
Obama.
doesn't have a job is lazy and it has nothing to do with the economy or system, does that mean in 2008, 700,000 people per month just randomly woke up one day and decided they wanted to be lazy for no reason? Or my favorite one, if you can't get a job, that's because you don't have any skills or education. Well then, how do you explain the fact that Gen Z and millennials are literally the most college-educated generations, and they're
because college is a scam.
The most with
it's just a big
jobs?
scam.
Well, you can't. So you have to take the cognitive dissonance one step further. They all got these useless
spilled my
gender
ginger ale
studies
on
degrees.
me.
So of course they're not going to get jobs with those. Okay, what about the fact that even most computer science degree graduates right now are having a hard time finding work with how oversaturated the tech job market is? Weren't you guys the same
like
ones
VTubers.
telling us to learn to code not that long ago? Yeah, well, just get into
There's the learn to
trades
code
is the
thing.
next one. Yeah, nice idea, Boomer. Until you realize that if everyone just gets into the trades, the same oversaturation problem that happened with coding and with general college degrees will happen to the trades as well. This endless...
I mean, that's like any industry. It's all like want and demand, right? And it's one of those things. I think trades are, there's always going to be demand to it to an extent, right? Until we get to the point where we're mechanically well off or advanced enough that a lot of that shit can just be replaced by more robots. Yeah, I remember the learn the code era. Everything is oversaturated right now. There's also an issue where I think a lot of companies, they're not willing to like train new blood, because one, training people takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and takes a lot of money, and which they don't have. And so a lot of these newer people, I think, are getting left in the dust when it comes to like the industry. The industry wants you already educated. They want you already like capable of doing the job. And who are those people? They're mostly the older ones who have already solidified their position in that job. Audio has that big issue right now where audio engineering has been like the same people forever. The people who are big in like the post world have been doing it forever. They work for the big post houses. Like I've met some of the gentlemen like who work at like Sony or like any other like big picture corps. They've got that job. You're not getting in. They're also not going to train you. And if you want in, you're going to be brought in as a like an understudy from a college, and that's not going to really take you anywhere. I hate to say it, a lot, because it's going to bring like, okay, you want to do it and you want to do it yourself. I think when it's different goes like also with like creative jobs. There are so many people who have creativity, and all those things take so many different like skill sets. I think like in the artistry space, so like a tiny realm down in the VTuber space, or like, you know, the streamer space, or anybody who makes content creation, I think we rely a lot on each other to do stuff. People are always hiring little artists, people always hiring musicians for stuff, editors for stuff, and we get along pretty well. And I think that's cool. You create your own little market. But no, yeah, I think you're fucked in the idea of like everybody who has a job is pretty much going to keep it until like they lose it, and the market doesn't have enough space for you. I feel like I've heard this before about people will put out like, or corpos will actually use job applications as a way to fool investors. And again, this could be some bullshit I'm completely pulling from my ass, but I thought I have seen this somewhere where it's like, oh yes, look, we're big and we're growing. We're always in need of more people. Or like we're becoming a big corporation, a big business, always big money. And see, we're hiring. We're always hiring for these things, always in need of blood, always in need of workers. That just shows you we're cool and we're operational. I swear I've seen that somewhere before.
Cycle of cognitive dissonance just never ends. It just pushes the oversaturation problem from one field to the next to the next. So it's time we burn.
Yeah, but people don't like doing physical labor
and face the reality of the world and economy we're living in. AI and automation have replaced enough jobs that not everyone can get a job anymore, and we need to find new solutions.
But again, it's always been like that.
Reality.
Always.
Universal basic income is absolutely going to become necessary, along with a general shift in our cultural mentality where just like we're no longer shamed for not having kids, we're no longer shamed for not working either. This, by the way, will be the actual solution to ensuring a better life for essential workers, as opposed to treating them like dirt and then using them as a meat shield when you need them to defend your pathetic, broken system. There won't be jobs for everyone anymore. It will be mathematically impossible. It already is mathematically impossible to give everyone a job, as I'm sure you've all noticed. Some jobs will remain, however, and those people will also be given UBI. And once their basic living expenses are covered, it will ensure that the work they do that upholds society will actually reward them with luxuries rather than just forcing them to work 60 hours a week to barely afford rent. Calling us lazy for not wanting to work isn't just a
what's a luxury to you, though?
Tactic.
Like, what do you consider a luxury?
Disgusting and dark manipulation lie and a massive psyop that corporations have used for centuries to keep us enslaved. We explore this more in this video right here. Check it out. I'll see you there. Thanks for.
So it's like, what's a luxury for us, right? Because a luxury for me and a luxury for another person is different. Are we just talking about like just owning shit? Are we talking about, oh yeah, the big TV, the big car, having cool stuff, all the cool stuff we want? Or are we talking about maybe the luxury, the ability to relax or to have a peace of mind? Because I think in a way that's also a luxury. Or just to have some kind of security. I think security, I'm at a point in my life where I feel security is a luxury. And of course, I could be wrong about that. I could be using this term wrong. But no, I think he makes a good amount of points in this. Like, yeah, corpos are, fuck them. They're always going to manipulate us, always going to look down on us, always going to like try to get rid of us as much as possible for their end profit. That's always going to be a thing. But at the same time, I don't know how much of this is actually grounded in reality. I need to check out and research myself to see where a lot of these claims are coming from. Because to me, this just looks like Twitter arguments. And Twitter arguments to me are not necessarily the real world. At least not in like the people I've met. Because I've been throughout most of this country. I've talked to tons of people. And a lot of these claims I've not really met from anyone you would ever take serious in your life. But again, that's just me. All right. So again, this was Gen Z isn't lazy. We're just rejecting BS jobs, which that was actually pretty good. He was very well spoken. He brought a really good presentation. The freaking Spider-Man game in the back. Like, God, I don't like Spider-Man at all. In fact, I don't like comics in general or their games. I think they're boring as shit. It's fine. It's good. All right. I have one more video lined up. I'm going to go to the restroom again real quick. And then we're going to get on with it so I can get this done with and go get some more mac and cheese and destroy my asshole. All right. See you right back. Wait.